Hello, this is Courtney Gooden, and welcome to the tutorial for the TechnoWeenies BlueScreen generator, which is part of the TechnoWeenies video playback toolkit. I'm going to click here on the BlueScreen generator to demonstrate what that is. It's a method of generating a full-screen blue screen. And let me say something about the taskbar, which you're seeing at the bottom here. After Windows 10 Creators Edition, this taskbar has a nasty problem of appearing on top of full screen video screen. So in order to get rid of it, you could either auto hide it, or if you, after the creators update, which is 1703 or 1709 versions of Windows, you can just click on the taskbar and then click on the background of the blue screen, and it will drop the taskbar back to behind the blue screen. This is a bug that they've brought into Windows with the Creators Edition, and hopefully they'll get it fixed better than they have it fixed now, but I kind of doubt they're going to address it. Microsoft is going to address it because they have so many notifications showing up now in the taskbar, and new tools and people and social media and all that other stuff, that they kind of want the taskbar to be on top. So you can either auto hide it or do like I just did and click on the taskbar to an unpopulated area of it, and then click on your blue screen to bring it to the front. And it should stay there, and it shouldn't pop up if you have it on auto hide. So to bring up the menu to control the blue screen, it came up in blue here. It comes up in whatever color you last left it. And you right click on the mouse button. So with the right mouse button click, it will bring up this little control panel up here. Now this control panel gives you control over a variety of the things that the blue screen can do. You can change the screen color. You can change the witness color. The witness marks are these crosses and these little corner things at the corner. Those are used for tracking. You can turn those on or off. All these are also controllable with hotkeys. Control-C turns the crosses on and off. And you can change the screen color by holding down the Control key and hitting G for green, B for blue, W for white, K for black. So you can and Control R for red. So you can change it to any of those primary colors. You can change the witness. There aren't hotkeys to change the witness color because you're probably not going to change that very often, but you can just use the drop down to set your witness color to whatever color you want. And I have something else for doing tracking, which we'll get into in just a second. These witness marks can move around a little bit by adjusting this grid line slider. There's a grid which you can turn on or off, but these corner pieces are placed on the grid. So when you change the grid lines, you change the position of those corner pieces. So you can move them out right toward the very corners of the screen into somewhere in the middle. And it basically is moving those. I'll turn the grid on so you can see what's going on here. So as you change the number of grid lines, it centers these corner pieces in the outer corner grid squares. So as you increase the number of grid lines, they move further and further away. Grid lines are useful for mapping, 3D mapping, where you want to map the shape of a projector, let's say, on a 3D object. You can use it for that. You can turn the crosses off and have this grid. Turn it back on again. And you can vary it from, I don't know how many, I think 80 times, up to 80 individual divisions, horizontally and vertically, down to 2, I think. So that can give you a variety of choices there for the grid, and it works with all the colors. And you can change the grid color as well. You could make the grid color, green with a different green for the background, let's say. It's not used too often, but there you have it. You also have circles, which if you're trying to figure out if the aspect ratio is set correctly, you can change. When you change the witness size, the circles change as well. You can also change the width, which is the pixel width of those witness marks. So if your display, if you want a very precise tracking, you can bring it down to 1 pixel, all the way up to about 10 pixels. So you can control how visible those witness marks are. And like I say, the circles, you can use those to make sure that your aspect ratio of your screen matches the aspect ratio of your generator here. There's also a checkbox here that says 16:9 squeeze. So if you have a 4:3 display that's going out to an anamorphic, that's basically like an anamorphic position. So it anamorphizes the circles so that if they're then stretched out from a 4:3 to a 16:9, they'll stretch out and become circles again. Not used too much anymore. It used to be useful when we were doing standard definition feeds. There's also another thing we use for tracking here. Let me turn the witness size back down to a normal size. Is called patches. I'll turn the crosses off. And what patches uses is it creates a random set of boxes on the screen that are slightly off in color from whatever color you have set. So let's say Control B, I'll go to blue. So you can see that on blue or green or white, those patches are there. And normally you'd hide this control panel by clicking on that, or Alt-H hides the control panel. And remember, the right mouse button brings it back up. So every time you hit turn on the patches, you'll notice it comes up in a different random selection of squares, so that you can have, if you have multiple instances of this running on the same machine or different machines, you can track different patterns. You can you're tracking your 3D match move software can then generate a match move map for these individual squares on each individual screen. So it won't get confused between this green screen and the next green screen if it's trying to track multiple screens in one shot, because they will be unique. Each one will be unique. All right, that is patches. And let me go over the brightness. Control the hotkey for controlling the brightness. Of course, there's a brightness slider here, which you can control the brightness of the screen, and you'll note that the patches change proportionally as well. You can also control the patch contrast, so depending upon the contrast situation of your camera and your effects supervisor, you can increase or decrease the patch contrast so that you can still pull a clean matte. So you get them just with enough contrast to be able to track them, and not so much that it's going to be a problem if you're trying to pull a matte, because it's close enough in green. They can easily pull a green screen matte that incorporates both this shade of green and the patch shade of green and the background shade of green. So that's patches. The other thing is you can control the brightness. The control key and right arrow brings the brightness up. Left arrow brings the brightness down. This is very handy for adjusting the brightness to the camera, and you can bring it down to where you can still pull a matte, but it won't be so bright as to be illuminating the talent on the set and spilling off onto the neighboring props or people. So that's very handy to have, to set it just to the right level for your exposure without having to adjust the monitor at all. It's all can be controlled from the software itself, and of course that works on all the colors. What I like to do is, if I go to white, because then it doesn't put any green or blue into the set, and then if we're on the back of the monitor, let's say the monitor is facing your talent like a computer monitor, then I can crank the brightness up on white and light the actor up with it so it looks like he's staring into a bright monitor. And then when you come around to shoot the monitor itself, you just take the brightness down and go to green, so that they can pull a matte off the screen itself. There can also, you bring up this, it works not only full screen, but it also works in a window. So if you uncheck the full screen box there, you can put it into a window, which you can slide anywhere you want. And you can size it. Kind of hard to do with this little keyboard, but let me see if I can do it here. Yeah, you can just click on a corner and size it to any size that you want. The tracking marks are automatically scaled and positioned as you scale and move the window. And then when you go Alt F goes full screen. Also, if you have multiple monitors set up, Shift right arrow or Shift left arrow will take it out of full screen, move it to the neighboring screen to the right or to the left, and make it back full screen again. So it's easy to have. If you have it over here on this screen and I want it to be on the right screen, I just hit Shift right arrow and it would make it full screen on the right screen. But since I only have one here, it makes it full screen on this screen. And let me get rid of the taskbar again, because every time you go full screen, so you'll notice that when I clicked on the taskbar here, let me see if I can do that again. Let me make it non-full screen. And then make it full screen again. And the taskbar stupidly floats back to the top again. But you'll see it does that because there's something highlighted. If there's something highlighted on the taskbar, it moves its Z position to the top of everything else. So if you can't seem to make it drop behind, either you can auto hide it or check over here, because sometimes you'll have these little notifications, little badges like this little check mark on the Windows Defender Shield, or your OneDrive has a little notice that you have a message there or something. If there's a little badge on any of these, it'll automatically move the taskbar back to on top of everything else. So you have to deal with it, whatever notification is here. Once you go to that notification or dismiss it, then you should be able to drop the taskbar back to the background by just clicking here on a unpopulated area and then click on your program now. Now I can move the mouse down to the bottom and it will not pop back on top until I minimize and maximize the screen again. I can hide my control panel there. So that is the BlueScreen generator. It works at any resolution, any aspect ratio. So it's handy to have when doing a variety of feeds where you need to track it and paste your information back in post. Most of the control keys involve holding down the control key or the alt key, so that somebody, if this is running on a laptop, can type along. As long as they don't type control codes, hold down the control key and hit some characters, they probably won't hit any of the hotkeys that would be screwing up the green screen. In order to quit, you've got to right click, and they can't accidentally quit it either, because to quit it you'd have to right click the mouse button and then click Alt Q to quit it. And that concludes the tutorial for the BlueScreen generator. Thanks again for watching.